Don Mazzella here again for Small Business Digest. You know, a lot of people talk about disasters to their small business. Well, we have with us Susan Kuchta today to talk about the things you can do before a disaster hits you, and if we have time, you should do afterwards. But Susan, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Don. Thanks for having me.
As we ask all our guests, first, Susan, tell us a little bit about yourself, then about your company, and finally a website.
Okay, thanks, Don. Well, my name is Susan Kuchta. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Strategy for Prism Specialties. I've been with the company just about 3 years, and that's how long I've actually been in this industry. So I spent about 25 years running national and global businesses in the specialty chemical space. Retired out of that industry, had an opportunity to meet our current CEO, and he asked me to come on board and to develop some sales strategies around insurance programs and insurance carriers. So I joined the greater insurance industry here with restoration and helping businesses and homeowners recover after an event, whether it's a hurricane or a house fire or a water main break or something happens at your company. The perspective that I have on small businesses is we are a franchise organization. So we have several locations across the country, several geographies, 46 owners, and these are small business owners, and those are the people I serve. So, and those people serve all of you when you have a peril, because they are these specialty restoration companies who will come in and can restore some of your items after flood, fire, or hurricane. So I was brought on to build those strategies and sales programs and training to help our franchises, our small business owners, serve the industry better. So that's a little bit about my background and how I ended up here. Our company, Prism Specialties, we are a specialty contents restoration company. Insurance adjusters and carriers call on us to help their insured, which would be your small business companies as well as homeowners, after they've had an event. So we like to say if it's unique and it's special and it needs an expert, we're a good first person to call. We do electronics, machinery, appliances. We have an art and collectibles category, textiles. So think of curtains and rugs and uniforms, clothing if you're a small business. And we also do documents. So if you still have a lot of your tax records or your company records in paper and they are damaged by soot or water, we can restore those documents. So that is what the company does. And we primarily do that in the insurance space. So you have an event at your facility, you call your insurance company. It's likely they will call in a company like us to help you with those specialty items and get those back to we like to say pre-loss condition. Wow. And you can find out about our company at our website, prismspecialties.com.
I wish I'd known about you 3 years ago. We had a flood in our basement that ruined everything. Anyway, having said that, yes. I'm a small business. What are some of the things that I should be doing before something happens?
Well, the biggest risk to small businesses is business disruption. How many days after an event are you going to be closed and no longer bringing revenues in? This is the biggest cost to businesses. So having things set up that you can get back open quickly is what's important. So everything will be guided by the policy, the insurance policy you have. So the first thing that I would recommend small businesses do is take a look at, go to your insurance agent and have them review annually your coverage. What we found is small businesses, well, and large businesses, more than 50% of them are underinsured. Whether it's for structure, have you put an addition on and you forgot to get extra structure insurance? Have you added 4 more pieces of equipment, 3 computers, 2 employees? And have you re-upped, have you increased the contents coverage you have? Most often, when a peril happens, you will call your insurance agent. They will call in an adjuster who comes and manages your claim. Their job is to get you back in business as quickly as possible, but they must stay within your policy limits. So if you're underinsured, it's going to be more difficult to get you back into business without you having to put out some money out of pocket. So first and foremost, review your insurance coverage every year, not just your structure, but your contents coverage as well. Once you know you have good insurance on all that, it still can be a challenge. It depends what the peril is. So you don't know everything you're going to need, but whether it's water damage, tornado, storm, fire, we like to say where there's smoke, there's water, because if you have a fire, then those fire department comes in and they spray everything with water. So rarely do we handle a fire where everything isn't also soaking wet. So that restoration is really about cleaning. So the first company that will come into your business is a mitigation contractor. And that's usually who the insurance carrier will give you a short list, or they'll call somebody for you. But they'll come in and they'll secure your structure. Do they have to board up windows? Do they have to suck all the water out? They're just trying to stabilize. And then it's at that point where we will start dealing with the contents, and a company like ours could get called in. So if you have copy machines, computers, refrigerator in the employee break room, if you have art on your walls, you might be a small business art gallery, and then you might be all art. Or documents. A company like ours will come in, assess it, we can pack out those items, and we can clean and restore them. Sometimes something can't be restored and the adjuster is going to cash you out for that item. But remembering that policy limit, the more items that can be restored, the more money in your policy that can be used for other things. So it's really having a good understanding of what kind of contents you have and what is something that can normally be restored. So what we like to do is to advise small businesses to already get to know who these companies are in your town. Many of you might already be a member of a chamber of commerce. There's contractors in your chamber. Do they do restoration? Do they do mitigation contracting? Get to know those people ahead of time, whether you're buying their service or not, and get them on your vendor list. Make sure that you have that number ready to go in the event that you have some kind of apparel. Ahead of time.
Can I interrupt you here?
Sure,
you know, a small business owner is so busy. I can't imagine 1 out of 100 people doing that. It's a great piece. It's just anyway. I just had to interrupt you there.
Yeah.
Please continue. It's just
no, it's true. You're right on, Don. I like I said, I serve 46 franchise owners, 46 small business owners myself right now. And whenever I ask them to do any kind of planning, they're like, yeah, but I'm running around and I'm working 24/7. And we are a 24/7 operation. So they often are spread so thin. So it's finding that time. If you are a member of a chamber, or you know a couple of those companies, or you meet them at community events, ask them to do the work. They'll be happy to. Most of these contractors, I know we have salespeople. So we'll just come out and, walk your shop with you when you're already there and try to make it as simple as possible. And I know that our contractor partners that we know do the same thing. So it is about working it in that very busy schedule, but knowing who you're going to call before it happens is critical. I try to explain to people, we all have it in our house. You can go down, if your furnace goes out, Don, you can walk down in your basement and there's a phone number on that furnace, right?
Oh, in my case, I do. Yes.
Yes, most people do, because the furnace guy put it there when he installed the furnace, right? So it's about creating those lists ahead and having them handy. Now, look, if you don't have them, your insurance carrier, your insurance adjuster, they're going to either suggest somebody, they're going to have a short list of those people that you can call. Where it's beneficial is when there's these kind of events, whether it's a homeowner or a business, we never get good at managing these events. Because why? Because it only occurs once in our lifetime. Mm-hmm. Let's hope, we only have a fire one time. So we never build a competency for it. It's a one and done thing. So to your point, when you're really busy, is that where I'm going to spend my time for something that may never happen to me and, do all this? So it's just really about knowing who those companies are that you can call right away.
Let me interrupt you. Your website again. I always promise our guests they can say it 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
Your website again?
Our website is prismspecialties.com.
Can you spell it out for our audience?
Yes, PRISM, Prism, and Specialties, SPECIALTIES.com. I felt like I was on the spelling quiz. Yeah.
Believe it or not, people do misspell it. But anyway.
Yeah. So
I don't mean to interrupt you. You're doing such a great job.
No,
Continue,
that's okay.
Please.
That's okay. So to the extent you can know who those people are in your community, you'll be better off. But at the end of the day, if you have an event, whether it's a water main break, it's a kitchen fire, if you're a restaurant, you're going to call your insurance company, they're going to assign an adjuster, and they're going to get a contractor out there quickly to contain it. But like I said, we never get good at this because these things happen once in our lifetime. So really understanding that as the policyholder, you do have the authority to make all the decisions. And this is something that a lot of the insureds don't know. You're in a crisis mode. You've just had a fire. You've just had a flood. It never happened to you before. You don't know what your role is. Well, you do have a role. You can choose who your contractors are and suppliers. And if you have people that you've already met and you're comfortable with, it makes things go a little faster for you. But your insurance carriers, they're great. They have their short list. They'll say, hey, you can call one of these 3, or if you'd like, I know these guys do a good job, I'll send them over. They're there to help. I mean, that's what an insurance adjuster's job is, to guide you through that process. But it's all going to be guided by your policy. So then after the event, when you are looking at, maybe you do have a short list of who should I call. I think there's some things you should look for when you're selecting the contractor to come in or one to put on your list. Do they work 365, 24/7? Fires, it's amazing. You cannot schedule them to happen 9 to 5. Fires and floods happen at all times of nights, during the day, on Christmas, whenever, and you need contractors that are operating and answering the phone 24/7. We do. Most of the people in our industry do, of course. Then what about somebody who can work on site? Maybe you're a small machine shop and you have huge machines that are bolted down. Can someone come in and restore them on site? And that will reduce the time you're out of business and get your doors open a lot faster. all of our specialty categories, we will do the work on site if that's the most cost effective or speediest to get you back in business. So that's another area that you should look at. And you can look at people's online reviews and things like that in terms of quality of service. But it's really just understanding what's going to happen and what that process will be. So I would say is if there's only one thing as a busy, like you said, Don, people aren't going to spend all this time interviewing contractors for something maybe they don't need. But if there's one thing you do, and that is to review your insurance policy every year and say, did I add any equipment? Have I added people? Do I have more square footage? Did I change my structure? And really making sure your policy coverage is meets your needs should you have an incident.
That's really good. But in my case with our flood, the flood took out all when they came to clean out the cellar to remediate it. They threw out all of our files, and then we couldn't prove what we had lost. How do you deal with a situation like that?
Well, I think it's being educated, like we're talking here. Paper files can be restored. We actually do that.
They threw them out.
Right. So it's knowing that you as the insured, as the business owner, you make the decisions. And so if there's maybe that second thing you get out of today is one, check your policy and make sure your contents and your structure coverage is good every year. And secondly is when something happens, you are not at the mercy of the contractors that are called in or the adjuster. You have the ability to make many of the decisions, frankly, all of the decisions through the process. And I think that's what I find most homeowners and business owners don't realize. I didn't know it before I was in this industry. I had a dishwasher flood my whole kitchen while we were on vacation. I came back, I was standing with suitcases and an inch of water on my wood floors. I didn't know I had a choice. I called my insurance company. They're like, we'll send somebody right out. And they did a fine job and they did a great job. But I didn't really know that I could have said, you know what, I'd rather use this company. I didn't know that I had that authority. I wasn't sure what decisions I could make. Does the adjuster decide if something's replaced or restored, or do I get to choose? And then being aware that most things can be restored. People just don't realize it. You just mentioned file folders. Think about something as simple as this. If you're a family business, and I know a lot of your small business owners are, and maybe they're second and third generation, and they have an entire wall of grandpa and grandma and the next generation of building that business. It's just photographs, right? So there's a fire, there's soot on the photographs, there's soot under the glass. The fire department comes in, makes them all wet. The pictures are now stuck to the glass. And these pictures were taken before digital. How do you're not going to, people just say, well, I guess I got to throw them away. You don't have to throw them away. We can actually restore photographs that have been fire and smoke damage. They can be scanned and digitally reproduced. Your insurance adjuster may or may not know that. They'll say, well, that frame's worth $10. I'll give you $10 for it. But the frame's not what you wanted, right? So I think it's having this knowledge and understanding that so many more things can be restored after smoke, fire, water, mold damage. There's so many companies out there. And like I say, we stay in the very specialty space for the unique things in the business and the home. But there's companies that restore. It's amazing what can be cleaned and restored these days. So I would always assume it can be restored instead of the opposite.
Well, let's go. You have artwork on the walls. You can restore the artwork.
Yes, so one of the categories of services we offer is art and collectibles restoration. We have degreed fine artists all across the country that know how to remove soot and water damage and mold from fine art. Everything from fine art to what I would call important art to me. Right? My grandmother painted a beautiful watercolor that the insurance adjuster wouldn't give me any money for, but it's very meaningful to me. They can remove soot and stain and repair water damage to some extent. If it was fine art, they wouldn't paint on it to restore it that way without checking if the artist was still alive, and they would work with them. But if it was not fine art and it was painted at the approval of the homeowner, they could restore the art. So we do that.
But the money that's spent to restore it comes out of that pile. Am I right?
The policy dollars, right?
Yes.
For contents. So your insurance policy is structured in structure, contents, and then usually a liability, like if somebody had a trip or fall or something on your property. So you're really looking at your contents. So often what we see is people have enough structure coverage, unless they've made an addition and forgot to get extra coverage for it. But it's the contents that is often underinsured because you're growing, you're adding things. Hey, you hire 3 new employees, you add 3 new computers, right? You don't think every year to really adjust that contents coverage. And like you said, well, we redecorated the offices and we put artwork on the walls, or we changed out all the draperies. We do textiles or rugs or things like that. So all of that will come out of that contents coverage, and you can hit the limits very quickly. And often if let's say for the replaceable things, let's say a laptop computer, you might just say, oh, adjuster, give me the money for that. It's $1,000. Well, if we restored it for $300, that leaves you $700 on that policy to do things that can't be replaced, right? The artwork, the photos, the things that are unique that they don't sell in the store anymore. Well, so it stretches your policy dollars by really thinking about what can be restored. I think people get excited about, well, they're just going to write me this big check and it's fine, I can just buy all new. But you can never really get everything that you had before. So restoration of those items really stretches your policy dollars.
Well, let's talk about a computer, because they valued computers that we spent $2,000. They valued at $25 because they argue computers age rapidly. But so it would have been better to have restored the computer rather than just accept the $25. Am I correct on that?
Right. So what you're talking about is, this is another policy coverage item that your folks might want to look at. So sometimes you get policy coverage for replacement value, and sometimes your policy coverage is the actual value of that item. So what you were just talking about is that computer's current value at that moment was now basically nothing because it was too old.
Right.
But if you had replacement value coverage, then they probably would have covered it at $800 or $1,000, depending if it was a laptop or what it was. And then at that point, restoring it for roughly a third of that cost would have freed up the rest of the money. So that's another policy thing. Is it actual value that you have coverage for, or is it replacement value? So that's an important thing to discuss. I'm not I don't work for an insurance company. I'm not an agent, so I can't really speak anyone through, can you split those things up on your policy or not? But those would be the good questions for your agent.
Oh, no, unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time. Your website, one more time.
prismspecialties.com. When you need an expert, we're the best first call.
Well, you can rest assured I'm going to put you on my list.
Thank you.
Susan, you have about a minute. What would you like to leave our audience with?
I think just risk management is a tough. It's a tough topic, and if you're a small business, like Don said earlier, you're wearing many hats. You're running around 24/7, and maybe it's just something you can assign to one of your trusted employees to, sit down and do that assessment once a year. It's just like when we're planning for our own future and our own homes and our own family, it's that important. So it's not urgent, but it's important. And so those are the things that sometimes get left behind. So just understanding that if there is an event that's going to disrupt your business, water, flood, fire, there are companies there that can help you. And don't forget, you're in control. You're the one who can control the process. So I think that's probably the best message to leave everybody with.
Okay, on that note, Susan, we say thank you
you
very much for really, and for me, illuminating time. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate it. You have a great day.